kick off our last panel for the Think Tank event, we'd like to invite Kevin up to stage, who will be moderating with Matt and Rachel and Jessica.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so before I start, I just want to remind you that you can submit questions throughout the session using the event app. If you go onto the schedule and select this session, then you can leave questions, so please do feel free to submit those questions. So before we start, I'm just going to let the guys introduce themselves, just so for those of you who don't know who they are. So Rachel, do you want to go first?
All right. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Rachel Hanaway, and I am the president of the board of directors for the Performance Marketing Association, or the PMA. I've been in the affiliate marketing industry for probably 20-some years, and I'm very excited to be sitting on this panel. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Wool. I'm the president of Acceleration Partners. We're an affiliate marketing agency. We've been working with ShareASale for over a decade now, and Awin more recently. Thrilled to be here.
Hi, I'm Jessica Siebe. I'm the lead account manager at BuzzFeed. We have been working with ShareASale for quite some time as well, and with Awin fairly recently, but I'm really excited to be on the panel.
Okay, great. So this is kind of a pretty open session, really. So if you have any questions for the guys on any aspect of the industry, then I'm sure they'll do their best to answer. Rachel, if I can start with you first. So one of the key initiatives, one of the kind of really interesting, exciting things that's going to come out this year is, which I know has been a real, I was going to say labour of love, I'm not sure you'd necessarily describe it as that, is the PMA study that's been done in conjunction with PwC and networks and SaaS platforms. In that's a groundbreaking study. It's the first one that's ever happened in this country. So can you just kind of give everybody that's maybe a bit less familiar with it a little bit of background and kind of what we can expect to see from it?
Sure. Yeah, I'm super excited about this. If I talk a million miles a minute, I'm sorry. So like Kevin said, we've been working towards this for over 2 decades. This has been something that the affiliate marketing industry here in the United States has desperately needed. Those of you who have ever tried to convince a merchant to join in the affiliate marketing industry, to convince them that there is money here, or for anybody who's ever tried to convince an investor that they should put their dollars in the affiliate marketing industry, you understand the frustration in looking for research and looking for numbers and saying, where can we find it? And it didn't exist. So I'd like to say a big thanks to Awin. We were courting Alex and Nick for a while, trying to get them to join the PMA, and had mentioned that a survey was something that we were really interested in working on. And they said, wait a minute, a survey? We could support that. And they connected us with Kevin, and you had done some work with this in the UK. So you all were a huge push to helping us get this done, and we really appreciate that. But the survey is complete. It has been about 2 years in the making. All eight of the major networks here in the United States participated. Not only did they give their information, but they also paid to participate, which I think is an amazing testament to the need that we had here for this type of data. And I'm just really excited about being able to publish this in July, coming out with these numbers that are better than we had hoped they'd be, and have some really surprising facts in them as well.
Yeah, I know that you're obviously still verifying some of those numbers, so there's kind of limitations on what you can say, but is there any kind of top-level numbers that you can share with the audience?
So who's familiar with the Forrester research that was done a few years back, right, with Rakuten? That was really the one piece of data that we all had to point to for years. And that had estimated, and I made notes, that had estimated the affiliate marketing industry to be at 5.94 for 2018 in ad spend. And I can say we beat that with the actual numbers that came in. They are looking at over $6 billion. Yeah, so yay, congrats everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that you're working on some of the ROI numbers as well, which we can't really share today, but broadly speaking, they kind of come in line kind of where I expected them to be, in line with what we've seen elsewhere as well. So that's a real positive, and those numbers are really impressive. So yeah. So what kind of other things can we expect? I know that it's not just kind of some top level numbers. The launch will be part of a wider kind of education piece or white paper.
Yeah, so we'll have, in July, we'll be coming out with the actual numbers. We'll start there, and you'll all be able to see the numbers that we collected. That will include overall ad spend. There were some numbers that were derived from having conversations with publishers, so that we were able to pull in information about Amazon and eBay and some of those that weren't represented by the major networks. After that, then we'll continue to do more pieces where we're diving in deeper on some of the subjects and some of the stats that we found. For example, one of the things that we found really interesting was the segmentation of publishers. I think that a lot of us assume that publishers and affiliate publishers tend to be coupon and voucher and cashback, and actually they were beat out by content and blogger, the content and blogger segment, which is super exciting, and I think something that all of us really want to see. So. So there will be lots of little studies that we can do based on the data that we've gotten.
I suppose that allows me to kind of neatly move on to Jess, because, yeah, I mean, that was, I think we were all kind of really pleasantly surprised by that stat. And obviously, BuzzFeed is relatively new to the affiliate scene. So from your perspective, kind of how does a study like this give you extra buy-in because one of your challenges is probably an internal challenge where you're educating the business about why they should invest more heavily in the affiliate channel. So kind of how does this help, and what have been some of those challenges that you've had?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? So a lot of our challenges, one, outwards in the market, is going to brands and saying there's value in content. There's value in investing what some may consider as upper funnel, driving the influence and recommending products and brands to our readership. Second from that, internally, we're going into what is historically a media agency, or excuse me, a media publisher, and saying there's value in monetizing your content, right? You don't just have to have banners and custom content and videos booked on impressions or clicks. You can also continue to write about the things that you know and love, the products that you know and love, and your readers will purchase from that. There's huge value in our voice. Internally, we're arguing to say, hey, what we're doing already works, and if we can, share what we're interested in with our readership, there's huge value in scaling that business and amplifying that performance with the brands and partners that we already know and love. So it's been a huge, huge excitement on our side. We felt that sentiment before we had the data available. So it's great to hear that there will be more information coming out in July that supports that more heavily. But yeah, mostly internally, I think it's really exciting for us to continue to say, like, hey, we're a bigger piece of the pie. We're worth giving a better glance to, and what's a better fit than being able to talk to your readership the way that you do already? So really exciting for us. Exciting to see those results.
Matt, from your perspective, kind of, we have seen when we've done a similar study in the UK, we've seen that kind of become the de facto place to go, and we've seen it referenced in trade press and by kind of non-affiliate bodies. Kind of from your perspective, how does that kind of help, kind of give you fuel as an agency when you go out and talk to brands?
Yeah, I think it's really important. There are a lot of companies now which are in spaces which are not traditionally spaces that have played an affiliate, and I think that they've questioned sometimes whether it's where they should be, and a study like this really helps support that argument. I actually think, though, that one of the things about the study is I actually do think it even undercounts the market by a pretty significant margin for a couple of reasons. One is that there are a lot of companies that are still treating influencers or certain kinds of business development deals, those kinds of things, as not quote-unquote affiliate, but it's affiliate, right? And so when companies start to understand that all these things are really working on the same model, I think that market gets bigger. There are a lot of companies that aren't treating button or those kinds of technologies as affiliate. If they're not being tracked directly through a network like Awin, we would argue that it's all the same as well. So I think that the count is probably 30 or 50% higher, which makes it even more impressive from my perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that for us here in the United States doing this study for the first time, this is opening the door to being able to dive in deeper and get some more stats like that. Certainly not a limitation because it was our first one, but the limitation that we had here is that we were working with network stats. Right. So going forward, I would love to hear from more merchants and agencies who are saying, we want deeper data, and understanding that means they have to provide those metrics as well, so that we can derive all of this information. I agree.
Great.
Rachel, we had a question come through, which is, I suppose, what's part of the wider PR marketing plan, and how can we as an industry push these positive numbers out more aggressively to kind of target other channels that may be less transparent?
Yeah, we are going to be looking for as much help as we possibly can. If you haven't joined the PMA already, please do. We'll have councils and committees set up to be putting together press releases and more white papers and deeper dives and into content, and we would just love to have your participation. That's really what it takes. I'll have a roundtable after this, so if anybody wants to come and sit and volunteer their time and ideas, I'd be more than happy to listen.
Does anybody have any specific questions about the study? Because we've got plenty of time. If obviously we can talk, there's loads of other topics we can cover, but if anybody specifically has a question about the study? I think Chris does.
Wow, 6 billion, what a statistic. I wanted to ask, have you gotten any granularity in terms of like mobile versus desktop in that, or kind of where the ad spend is going that you can share publicly with us?
That's a great question. We did not get that level of granularity this time around. So that's definitely something that was on the top of the list to get done the next time. Just to be very transparent about this first round was really getting all of the networks to understand that this was not going to hurt anyone. And so we got as much information as we could that way, and I think that we're all seeing that this is going to be great for all of us, and now we can take that next step and get into those more granular stats. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, as Rachel said, she's hosting a roundtable, so if you want to go and grill her, I'm sure she'll be able to share some more information with you. Okay, so moving on, Jess, if I can come to you. You mentioned kind of some of the challenges that you have internally about how you talk within the business about the affiliate model. When you're going out and talking to brands, kind of what is your, from a BuzzFeed perspective, what's your kind of elevator pitch? How do you demonstrate that you're going to kind of add value to a brand's affiliate campaign?
Yeah, well, a lot of the time, our partnerships are extremely data-driven, right? So we prefer to go out and reach out to partners that we've seen existing performance with, right? We have an existing affiliate program at baseline. We take a peek at our program on definitely a daily basis. We look and see which brands are performing for us, where there's opportunity to scale, and then we kind of take those insights to those brands and say, hey, look, here's what we're doing. Here's what we can do to do more. So really, it's not a huge, difficult conversation to have and saying, like, here's what we have seen, here's where we've seen strong performance, and what can we do to kind of elevate that. All of our editorial team's performance and the content that they produced is, again, like written at their sole discretion. It's what they're interested in writing about. It's products that they've seen our readership react to strongly, that we've seen strong reviews for online. Like if we go to Amazon or if we go to a direct-to-site consumer and see that there are 1,000 reviews for this one product that solved like a problem, we definitely want to share that value with our readers. If we see it converts, great. We go to that brand and say, hey, look, our readers love this product that your shoppers also love. Let's work together more collaboratively to kind of build that relationship. So externally, it's not too much of a challenge as we're using performance and data to kind of lean into the things that we know are working first and foremost. And then internally, fighting to get like space is what your question was more related to. If we're seeing that, hey, look, there's value in this piece of content, there's value in this partner, if we were to, let's say, carve out a section of the site or traffic on the site to kind of continue promotions for this, what additional value can we add to this piece of content that was performing organically? How can we scale that for the benefit of the brand and also the benefit of our business? And so it's more of a test and learn. It's very performance driven, as we all work in the performance marketing industry. But it's about essentially coming with your receipts, I guess, and showing that you have value that has been seeded initially, and how there's potential to kind of scale that up.
I mean, the affiliate channel is obviously a very relationship-based channel. So,
yes.
Kind of where is the sort of balance between, there's a lot of discussion within the industry at the moment around automation and kind of just trying to drive efficiencies.
Yeah.
So where is the kind of balance between you being kind of a data-first business or versus a relationship-based, or how do you kind of balance those two things out?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, relationships are definitely important. We do try to keep in close contact with the brands that we work with most closely, the ones that our editorial team writes about fairly consistently, and the ones that are looking to, start off, get ramped up, and drive performance. And to your point about automation, I really don't think there's a point that we can strictly automate our business, because the larger you grow, I think there's a slight misconception in the industry, in which case, like, once you turn links on, you're starting to ramp up with performance. It's like a set it and forget it. And BuzzFeed is like the testament to saying that that's not the case. The larger you grow in terms of performance and traffic, the more difficult it gets, I guess, to manage such a large program. We still look at things like extremely granularly. We look at sales by day for a lot of I think it's like the top 125 partners in our program. We look at like dips and declines in traffic. We see like, okay, they're down day over day, month over month, week over week. What can we do to optimize that? And what's the leading indicator for why we've seen these shifts? So we're hyper-focused on data. We essentially want to make sure, there's no real way to set something, because the algorithm will break at some point, and you'll have to be like, okay, how do we fix that? How do we get back on track in terms of traffic? Like, the internet is, specifically content, is highly influenced by like news coverage, celebrity gossip, like things can, or maybe Facebook being down for like a day, or like a Google search this past weekend and their database like going wonky and everyone's Gmail was messed up. Like, the way people interact on the internet can shift so dramatically, and so you have to keep a close eye on everything, because that impacts our campaigns, that impacts our relationships, that impacts like how we can perform within our overall program. So I don't think, like, while there's a lot that can be said for automation, I think you do still have to keep this like very, very, you have to be in the weeds with the data day to day if you want to continue to run something even at a large scale efficiently.
Matt, I mean, from your perspective, you've worked in the industry a long time. How have you seen that shift towards automation, and how is it impacting what you do as a business?
I'm still a rookie in this industry compared to a lot of the people here. So what I love about the affiliate world is that there's art and science, and data is incredibly important. And Jessica and I were talking about this yesterday. BuzzFeed and Acceleration Partners have a great relationship. They work together a lot. But there is a chicken and an egg on the publisher side, but also on the advertiser side, of everybody wants to see the data that shows that something's going to work, but how do you get the data that something's going to work if you can't actually get it to do something? So, we have constant conversations with BuzzFeed and other mass media publishers about, hey, we've got this great brand, maybe they're a little bit smaller, but can we do something? And a lot of times they're saying, well, where's the data that's going to show what's going to happen? And we don't have that yet because they're smaller. So the relationship part is kind of making that work and trying to get that initial data to work. I do think, though, that on the advertiser side, there's exactly the same problem. You have brands who are, they've got a ROAS target, or they have very specific requirements about what they need out of a publisher. And if we bring them a great new publisher and they have a cool new business model or technology or whatever it is, but there's no proven data, the brand's just kind of like, well, we can't go with that. And I think on both sides, the relationship is really key to pave that way and kind of make sure that you can convince them to do that. But both sides just need to be open-minded about some of the possibilities with the new stuff. We have to remember that every publisher in this room was brand new at one point, and they got their start somewhere. There was a mutual client that we had with ShareASale for many years, Shutterfly, who the CMO, John Boris, would always say that he would take 10% of the overall marketing spend and of Shutterfly, and he would say, hey, I don't care what the ROAS on this is. I'm not looking at the ROI on this. I'm just going to try shit. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that's how we're going to find the next big thing. And I think sometimes that gets lost in all parts of the industry because we're so hyper-focused on the data.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point, because if you're kind of working to an overall blended CPA, then there should be some wiggle room in terms of what you can do.
And especially you have brands who say, look, I've got a 10-to-1 or 12-to-1 ROAS goal. And I say, well, great, but BuzzFeed or someone higher in the funnel with good, great content, you're going to have to pay them, maybe a 15% commission, and all of a sudden, that's going to throw your ROAS out of whack. And so, what do I have to do? Do I have to offset that with some crappy, much lower funnel, non-incremental revenue in order to offset that, and that those kinds of things just don't make sense.
So I suppose that kind of there's another aspect to that, which is go back 10 years and we were it's pretty basic in terms of what people were paid. You paid a commission, you knew exactly what you were paying for, kind of on a very sort of top level, and kind of generally people seem to be sort of quite content with that. But obviously we've seen the industry try to reinvent or create new payment models. Are there kind of any example, question for all three of you, are there any kind of examples of, or any ways that you've worked with clients in more creative ways in terms of non-CPA payments or complementary payments?
I mean, our teams do a lot of creative thinking about it. I mean, I think VIP commission rates are the one that we typically lean on the most in order to say, hey, for certain kinds of things we can pay more. We also do a lot of stuff around thresholds. If you can reach certain thresholds, brands can offer higher rates. There are different ways that we can think about that. But it's a partnership with the publisher to figure out how we can be flexible on both sides, and that's where the relationship really comes in.
Yeah, and BuzzFeed, I'm sure you guys and many of you in this room have probably seen our rate card, but we work with a lot of publishers, advertisers as well, on like a flat fee CPA hybrid model to kind of amplify performance, right? Because as internally, we're running a business, and so we're extremely data-driven. We're optimizing our program to the highest potential, one, to the interest of our readers, but also to the highest potential that we can grow and continue to sustain our team and everyone who's goal-based internally. From that, if someone's saying, hey, look, I know you're running our program as this organically month over month, let's see what we can do to amplify that. Like, what does that look like with social boosting budget on Facebook? What does that look like if we secured dedicated posts more frequently with you guys as paid plus CPA? There are ways that we can strategically work with them and kind of reallocate our resources and say, hey, look at it. I know you have this planned. Let's carve out some bandwidth to support this brand as they're looking to invest more heavily, and see how the numbers shake out as a result of then. Flat fee does help us offset that opportunity cost of writing about the publishers that we know are going to consistently convert over and over, month over month. And so at the head of each month, our editorial team is taking what we've secured for brands who are amplifying their partnerships plus what they have planned organically and molding that into a monthly plan to make sure we are set to perform on par with our internal goals and the goals of our brands as well. So I think there's a number of ways that we can work together. We're flexible with rates. We're flexible with exploring flat fee opportunities. We're always open to putting together. I mean, we have a rate card, but most of our packages that we put together for partners are fairly custom. It's usually coming with your KPIs. If you say, hey, look, I want to secure something, don't care about the ROAS, sweet. That awesome. Gives us that, not awesome, but it does give us the more flexibility to test and learn and give you a recommendation that say, hey, look, this is a little bit more risky. Or, if you're saying I'm extremely ROAS focused, I need this to perform for my brand, my recommendation is going to be a lot slimmer because I want to make sure that I'm putting something in front of you that makes sense and will return for your brand. A lot of times partners reach out to us and say, hey, saw this on your rate card, is this a fit for my brand? And I'm like, not from my POV, but I can tell you what might work better and when we could maybe activate on something similar if we see proven performance early on. So there's a ton of different ways in which we can work with you depending on what your budget level is and what your preferred goals are.
I think we're going to see more and more of this also, these hybrid models, and we need to, right? If we're seeing that content publishers and bloggers are the ones that are leading the way now as the largest group in affiliate marketing, and we've only dented what's available there at this point. So I think that the advertisers and even the models available at networks have to be ready to support these types of relationships instead of, like you said, 10 years ago saying we offer 5%. and just saying oh, well, come and take it or leave it, it's 5%. It's a completely different thing now to have these relationships and have these discussions and merchant by merchant and affiliate by affiliate get the right mix in place.
So are you also seeing a shift because if publishers are coming out with kind of more creative ways of and kind of hybrid models around payments, presumably they're also potentially changing their pitch in the fact that they're not just saying we're just a purely sales-driven opportunity, we're kind of acting as a kind of an extension of your brand, we can run brand campaigns, so it kind of is becoming maybe a bit blurred between performance and non-performance. Is that kind of something that you've seen?
So yeah, but I would argue that anything can be performance, right? So if you take a platform like Awin, where you have a lot of flexibility in how you can commission, setting different kinds of rules, doing different kinds of things. We've always talked about a vision of the world where you can have more brand-oriented publishers or very top-of-funnel publishers. And if you have a lot of data around what happens with customers after certain kinds of interactions occur, that you could say, look, they read an article on your site, they kind of came and they interacted with our site in some way. Our data shows that means that at some point in the next year, they're going to buy something from us. It may not be within the affiliate cookie window, but they're going to buy something. That's worth something to us, and therefore there should be a commission paid, and you set the commission based on that value. So just because something is top of funnel or brand doesn't mean it can't be done on performance. It just means you have to have the data organized in such a way where you know what that's worth, and then you can pay it for what that's worth.
And adding on to that, we've seen a number of partners in our program. It's interesting being a publisher because you have a glimpse into how each brand kind of operates and monetizes and finds value in the affiliate channel, which is very interesting. But again, it's always helpful to know the KPIs up front because you never know. It varies for each brand and each partner. A lot of our brands that we work with are starting to lean into an MTA, which is multi-touch attribution model, in which they're seeing, yes, people at some point do visit BuzzFeed, and while they may click on Honey, or they may click on a cashback coupon site, or they may, just fall out of the cookie window and eventually purchase, or they add to cart and they keep like their Free People cart or their Urban cart or whatever sitting for months before they decide to purchase. We're seeing that value, and they're revisiting their site, whatever they consider as being a new session or a new customer, they're returning. They're coming back to us. They're adding, at least finding interest in these products and eventually converting. And so while we do fall off a lot of the times in terms of like last click, and we don't always win in that end game, we are seeing that our customers are very interested and influenced to purchase by what we feature within content. And so we find value in that. We don't obviously push our partners to say like, hey, we drove that sale, like commission us, but we do find value in receiving that data. It does help us in our day-to-day conversations with other brands and going and saying, hi, this is what we're seeing through the affiliate networks exclusively. Here's what we're seeing as a part of a larger halo effect of our content and what we're writing about. Here's the value. The value is somewhere in the middle, right? You might not have to commission us on that entire value, but it's good for you to know that there is this extended effect of your feature within content and how that affects your business in the end game. A lot of the times we use these numbers as like supplemental metrics when we're going to partners and kind of negotiating contracts, negotiating like performance programs, because we want them to see the value. Obviously with a sale, we're hoping that window is like more immediate. If it's a short-term period like the holidays or Black Friday, Cyber Monday, obviously the conversions will be a lot more quicker and the performance will be higher. But for like best spring dresses or best vacuum that you need for your new home, like you may see that article in July, your new home you don't buy until January. Like, we love that you read it from BuzzFeed. We love to know that influence. We love to share that impact with our editorial team so that they know that it's not all dollars and cents. You aren't going to just exclusively see performance through what's tracked through the networks. You also, making a larger impact outside of what is seen immediately. And there's definitely value to that and seeing that on both our side and on the brand side.
Okay. We've got a few questions here, which I'll come back to a little bit later. But just moving on, one of the questions that I think would be quite interesting to get your views on is kind of affiliate marketing in 2019. Obviously, it's kind of similar but very different in some respects from 10 years ago. But where do you see the industry now? What sort of rating would you give the industry at the moment? What are the things that you like? What are the things that you think we should be doing better? What are the things that you really hate? A bit of a broad question there. But.
Yeah. You guys first.
What do we hate?
I would say I can start and we can go down the line.
What do you hate?
What do I hate? I hate, maybe, not hate, I find difficulty in like the inconsistency between brand partners, which it makes it interesting. It makes you think differently. Every brand that you approach has a different model. Like to my point of earlier about the attribution model, it's like when you're seeing a larger halo of sales coming through, it's like, does this brand use Google Analytics data? Does this brand trust Facebook pixel data? Does this brand have internal capabilities to even look into these sorts of insights and share them back with us? Like we're very limited past what we can see outside of the affiliate networks. And so going to them and saying, hey, look, I know there's the potential for this information to be somewhere, or like can we cooperate more strategically and figure out how we unlock these insights and share them more fluidly between our teams so we can activate on them and paint a bigger picture. I think that's what really helps us scale our partnerships, and it's not something that's available to all brands that we work with, right? So if I bring up Facebook pixel data or Google Analytics data or multi-touch attribution, some people like might delete my emails because they just don't want, they're like, what are these big words that she's talking about? I have no idea. Just tell me about the affiliate network revenue. And so that's a little bit limiting. I think like just having your capabilities stunted not by what's available to us, yes, but also like internal capabilities. Everyone is fighting to get this information internally. Everyone's trying to make the case for why they should leverage like different types of insights within their own internal platforms and leaning into how they can, better conglomerate and make their campaigns run most efficient, not only through what they're seeing in terms of last click, but also through alternate attribution models, which Awin is actually really helpful with helping them set up within the network. You can take a longer look at, first click or do a smaller rev share for people who influence the funnel of purchases. But I think that's kind of limiting on our side, and we don't have insight into that unless a partner is willing to give that information to us. So it's as much of a collaboration as it can be. What I do like is that there's a huge opportunity to crack that. So every time we find out a new way of tracking revenue or sales, it's like it's like a treasure hunt almost. Like we can solve for this, and we can kind of optimize against this and use this as supplemental data. Or yes, we've seen strong performance here. Because there's so many inconsistencies across like brand KPIs, it's hard to create like best practices or set standards. And when people come and ask me like, do you have past performance metrics that support like these decisions? Yes, maybe for like 2 brands, but not always brands that are relevant to the program that we're considering at the time. And so that can be limiting, and saying like, I a lot of the times have to say like, we have some data, not enough data to support a definitive decision. So a lot of it is a test. A lot of it is test and learn. If we have brands that are willing to say, throw money at the wall and see what happens, like that's best case scenario. A lot of the times, though, we do want to make sure we're being really smart and thoughtful about our recommendations. Like, I'm not sure if there's anyone in this room who's heard a no from me. I know there's people at Acceleration Partners who've reached out and I've said probably not the best move to partner at this time, but maybe in the future. That's us being really thoughtful about performance for your brand. We want to make sure that we're not only accepting partners just because they're offering us a high rate or saying we have this amount of budget. Like, we're being thoughtful about what we're recommending to our readers, because the moment we lose that authenticity, the moment we lose their trust, and then our overall traffic for all of our readers, right? If you saw something on BuzzFeed that you were like, wait, this seems out of the Wild West, like our readers would feel the same. And so we want to make sure that we remain authentic, but are also very, very thoughtful about our partnerships and our relationships. That's the two-sided coin, I guess, for my POV on affiliate.
You're next on hate.
I'll go whenever you want.
Well, I think this kind of builds on what you were saying.
I have a long list of things.
So, the airing of the grievances is coming next.
A therapy session.
Building on what you said, I think that something that I think has maintained over the last 10 years, and I don't know when we see the end of this, is the siloing within advertisers, right?
Hate that.
Yeah. And it is. And I think we see it with advertisers of all size. I think there's maybe a misconception that smaller advertisers, it's easier because, it's one marketing person, but they've got their PPC budget and they have their email budget, and they're trying to figure out which of their channels is producing which revenue and what's costing what. And I think at the end of the day, the affiliate channel tends to be to get the brunt of all of that, right? You're like, oh well, I don't know if that was really affiliate because we also sent them an email, or but Google search, that's easy to sell to the C-suite. They understand Google search because they've used it. If we try to explain affiliate marketing to them, they don't really get it, right? So I think that there are these struggles that are still happening within marketing departments in general. At the brand level that end up hurting us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll start with what I love, which is shorter list. What I love is all the new affiliate business models on the publisher side and technologies, and the fact that now there is this kind of blurring of what is a publisher versus a support enabling technology. I think that can be a little confusing sometimes, but I think it's great for the industry, right? All the stuff, lots of people in this room that are doing those kinds of things. it's great, and it just is a testament to the fact that, there's only one Google, there's only one Facebook, there's not other business models coming in, but we're able to access all these new business models, which I think is a huge advancement from 10 years ago when it was much more limited in terms of what there was. I also love that I think overall our industry is actually getting a lot more visibility at higher levels in organizations. I think CMOs are starting to care a little bit, which historically they have not cared at all in a lot of places. Performance has become a buzzword, obviously, as CPMs and other things have become more problematic. And we were discussing this yesterday. Facebook's rates, I think, are up 120 or 130% over the last year, 18 months. So people are starting to say, look, we need to find other efficient ways to make money, and affiliate is obviously a great place to do that. So I love all of that. What I don't like right now on the siloing side, to me, what is really frustrating is, look, one of the great things about affiliate, again, is that anyone can be a publisher for anybody else. So we have brands, clients, where it'd be great if they were publishers for each other. But it is impossible to get them to do that because the team that has to approve, being a quote-unquote publisher is completely different from the actual affiliate team on both sides. And so you end up with, 4 teams that you have to coordinate, and they don't really understand what's going on. And it's a nightmare, and you would think that would be such an easy proposition. We have 2 clients. You're complementary. You could make money from each other. Just do it. Don't be dumb about it. But it doesn't happen. And similarly, I think another thing that I hate, cut me off anytime, Kevin, is fixed budgets at brands. I think that it boggles my mind when the second week in November a brand says to us, hey, we need to slow down for the rest of the year because we don't have enough, we're gonna blow the budget. I'm like, you tell me you don't want me to make you like another $100 million because of the budget. And the answer is yes. It boggles my mind. It doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously, finance departments at public companies, I'm sure Axel Springer has this issue. But it doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like it's the antithesis of performance, and that really is frustrating. The last thing.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
and how does that affect you as a publisher, right?
Yeah.
When a brand says we're done.
You've already got your calendar.
Yeah.
Yes. So that can be a bit challenging, and on our side, we can't tell our editors to stop or continue writing about certain brands as a result of rate increases. We try to keep them blind to that so that they're continuing to write about the products that they know and love, regardless of the amount of money that we're making. It just is sad to see a post go live for a brand that performs really well traditionally, but they've cut budget, and so we see all this traffic, we see all these sales, and then nothing goes to BuzzFeed because they've just decided to, discontinue their budget for the rest of the year, which is great, free money to them. But also, we want to reward our writing team for the value of their work. And, we do plan well in advance, specifically for holiday seasons and things like that. And that's when generally these budget cuts come down, November, December. So we want our readers to know about these products. We wouldn't want to withhold any information from them, but it's a little bit counterintuitive to our business. So it's not being a really great partner, I would say, but I don't have insight into these internal financial teams. I think everyone in this room addresses the same issues, and so maybe we band together and use each other as resources for how we navigate these conversations and maybe push back. A lot of the times I respond to these emails and say, sad, but okay. And then sometimes people do come back and say, we've revisited and reconsidered, we've upped your commission rate specifically for your team, knowing that there's a great relationship going on. So I do my best to kind of push and make sure that we maintain those if we can. But yeah, if you guys ever the hammer comes down on finance and you feel like it's not a just decision, and need to use Acceleration Partners or BuzzFeed as a resource for navigating those conversations, reach out and say, hey, look, I'm not totally in agreement with this decision. How would you recommend I bring this up to someone internally? And we're more than happy to work with you, even if I don't work on your account. Because all of us, I think, experience the same hindrances in which we're fighting for our own programs internally, and every organization is different. I think it's always a conversation that's worth having, and it could be honestly for the betterment of the business, especially if someone is saying that we think we're going to make you hundreds of thousands of dollars more if you don't do this. It's worth bringing that to the attention of someone who may have given you that direction.
But where I do think we all have an opportunity is that, again, I do think we're at a moment now where our channels are starting to get more visibility in the C-suite for a lot of different reasons, and that we have the ability, if we can kind of figure out how to do it more collectively, to, I think, push that visibility to the point where hopefully the CEO of the company is saying, wait, this doesn't really make sense. Let me talk to the director of finance and sort that out. Or the CMO is saying, hey, I'm making it an internal priority to make sure that the PR team and the affiliate team are working together so that the long tail of influencers starts moving to affiliate, because that just makes more sense. I think that we all have to keep pushing that conversation where we can into the C-suite.
So how, you mentioned working collectively as an industry, which obviously the study is kind of, I suppose, at the center of that as being like a really important initiative. There seems to be this kind of conversation at the moment in this kind of like attempt to sort of rebrand affiliate marketing. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think it's to the detriment of the affiliate channel? I mean, is it because affiliate is still seen as this kind of slightly shady channel that we're doing? I mean, what's the kind of momentum behind that?
So I'll wade into slightly dangerous waters here. So one of the competitors to Awin came out with this whole affiliate is dead thing, long live partner marketing. And then Adam, among others, wrote, affiliate is certainly not dead. and look, our position is, I don't want to say it's in the middle. I think it's kind of just a broader view, right? Our position is that affiliate marketing is alive and well. However, it is a sub-segment of a much larger piece of marketing, and maybe, I think it's all semantic, right? I mean, some people may already be talking about this larger thing as affiliate marketing, but to us, when you start thinking about these other kinds of relationships and other kinds of performance partnerships that you can have, I think a lot of companies see them as being very separate from affiliate, and what we would say is they're really not. It's affiliate is part of this, and it's all kind of the same thing. You're paying people on performance. So I think from our perspective, I do think affiliate marketing, at least in the US, I think it's a little different in other places, but in the US it still has a lot of baggage, and a lot of CMOs are still scarred by experiences they had with legacy networks in 2008, and that's part of the reason that they don't want to give much attention to the channel. So I do think a rebrand is healthy, but I think we need a healthier discourse about what that really means and kind of what the terms are.
Yeah, and I think you're...
Is that fair? Yeah.
I'd agree with what you're saying. Call it affiliate marketing, call it performance marketing. Right. It's not so much what we're naming it, but how we're just showing that we can show a lot of things in stats. We'll have the study that can show things in stats. You're showing stats internally. You're showing stats to the advertisers you're working with. And I think that if we keep leading with that and showing that we have this performance, we're able to measure what we're doing, that who's going to argue with us? And that's sort of that, like, I don't know, gumption. I'm Midwestern. That gumption that we've had behind us that can help drive us and push us through this. Where when people say, "Oh, affiliate marketing," like, it's not what you've heard it is. Just like, this is what it is, and we can show them exactly what it is.
So what about the incremental question? Because as a channel, another thing that we kind of are saddled with is this sort of ongoing, seemingly from some quarters, desired a need to have to justify kind of everything that we do through kind of incrementality. How have you got any kind of examples, or how are you going about kind of addressing that and actually demonstrating how incremental and the added value that you're offering?
Yeah, so I think the best example I can give is actually, it's not really an example, but it's the fact that we are now able to commission much more closely to value, right? The idea of incrementality is that, hey, I'm paying for all the stuff that I don't really find valuable. But because of the flexibility of commissioning on the platform, it becomes much easier to say, okay, here's the value I assign to something, I'm going to just pay what that's worth. And then in a lot of ways, the question of incrementality just goes away. It doesn't become a if, it becomes a how. Now, a lot of companies are not sophisticated enough to understand that, the attribution, that's a whole other can of worms, but to me, it's almost it kind of should be a moot point. You shouldn't be justifying the existence of the channel. You should just be justifying, well, I should be paying a partner X versus Y because that's the value that they're delivering based on whatever our metrics are. And the company has to obviously define what's valuable to them.
Okay, cool. We're sort of coming towards the end now, but just wanted to kind of get a view from you on, you've said some of the things that you like, some of the things you don't like. But kind of are there kind of like any highlights, are there any kind of like nuggets or really interesting things that you've seen recently that Matt, you mentioned kind of this kind of move towards kind of more kind of software-based affiliates, which I agree, I think that's a really exciting opportunity. Are there kind of any kind of additional examples or kind of really good practice that you've seen that really excites you, really interests you, that kind of gives you, that's kind of changed your perception or you think will become more prevalent over the next kind of 12, 18 months?
You know, Cass doesn't really pay attention, but I'd ask her.
Sorry.
What are the awesome like business models that we're seeing? Awesome new business models
For publishers?
Yeah.
Gosh, I think, thanks for putting me on the spot. I'm like multitasking here. I think one trend that I'm seeing a lot of is interest in card-linked marketing, card-linked offers. And one of the challenges that we're seeing repeatedly is that transparency and tracking that a lot of our advertisers are looking for to help them understand that user journey and how things are converting. But the reach that is available through these partnerships, through card-linked offers, through financial institutions, where you can actually leverage historical transaction data to target based on purchase history, based on geography, based on a lot of things, is a really smart way for advertisers to get in front of the right customer at the right time. So really looking at that incrementality piece, it makes a lot of sense to go that way, but I think there's still more work to be done to allow our advertisers to feel comfortable with that model, particularly when they're looking for partners that are driving new customers and helping them understand how we can determine if that customer is a new customer or not. We have a lot of advertisers that have different tiered structures for payouts, so they may only pay on a new customer, and they may pay differently on new and return. So any type of partner, and there's a lot of card-linked models out there. You see things like a Drop or an Acorns or Empire Network or Agio. There's a lot of great partners out there doing this, so I'm excited to see where that goes. The other thing, just in general, mobile apps are exploding. I think in the last several months, I've come across two really great college-focused apps where they're not only promoting a brand to their students and creating a new generation of consumers, but they are leveraging those students to become brand ambassadors for advertisers, which is super exciting. So it's a very authentic way to engage with brands, and I think there's a lot of movement in that area in particular. So those are two. Another thing that I think is an area where we're seeing a lot of potential for great reach and engagement is through employee reward partnerships. Again, they have massive reach with their employees. So, you can actually see sometimes they have 15,000 employees. They're engaging on their app. These apps are becoming a social platform, not just for shopping, but to engage with each other. And so it's something that's on their phone, and they're not just they're looking at it a lot, and I think that is a very underrepresented segment. So I think some of the requirements with those partnerships are exclusive offers, and a lot of advertisers shy away from that whole concept of providing an exclusive. But I think just helping them understand and educating them on that piece of this is hidden behind a registration wall, and this is just a way to really drive more loyalty to your brand. Is a really cool path as well. So I see a lot of really interesting technology partners that are coming through, and Matt, to your point about just getting the right people in the conversation, it's sometimes not just the affiliate manager that you're speaking to every day. It requires other teams, and so we can tell you, we know this is going to drive 15% incremental, not just through affiliate, but for your whole e-commerce channel. It seems like a no-brainer, and yet those conversations get stunted.
Hate it.
Hate it. And we, I mean, it's just, I think it's one of those things that with anything, the more you speak about it, no today doesn't mean no 6 months from now. Being diligent to continue to provide the why behind why we think that partnership makes sense. And just circling back, there's always rotations within staffing, people turn over, so sometimes new blood helps too. So I love being in this industry and learning all these cool models, but those are some that just stick out.
Thanks, Cass.
You're
She's
welcome.
much smarter than me, see.
Does anybody have any questions for the guys before we wrap up? No? Okay, well, I'd like to say a huge thank you to you guys for coming on the panel today. As Rachel said, she's going to be hosting one of the roundtables, so if you want to go and find out more about study or any aspects, I presume, of the PMA, then please go and see her after the break. But please show your appreciation for the panel. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that.